Hello everyone, this video is to discuss the Dragonhunter War vs War damage build, and so let's get into it. On the first straight line we get Radiance. I take right hand strength because it gives us more precision, which is really helpful to reach the critical cap chance, and also more power when we wield a one-handed weapon, meaning our scepter. And here we can also run Healer's Retribution for 8 seconds of retaliation when we use a healing skill. We shouldn't go for this trait, but if you see your party doesn't give you retaliation, or you are missing a lot of retaliation because the enemy is always corrupting it or removing it, you should run this, because retaliation is a huge part of our damage, as I will show you in a bit. This is 10% more damage during when we are affected by retaliation, so it's one of the reasons why we need the retaliation, hopefully permanent retaliation. And then here we get 25 more percent critical chance and a pulsing might, 1 stack per second, whenever we have retaliation. So this is the main reason why we need the retaliation permanently to do damage. Then here on the Zeal trait line we get Wrathful Spirit, because Aegis grants boons when it ends, meaning we get retaliation whenever we consume a Aegis from we have on us, and also Fury for our critical chance. So I find this trait really underrated in other builds, because it really boosts our critical cap chance like by 45, like Fury 20% and 25 more from retaliation, all in one trait. Also this trait is not really reliable because enemy is not always burning, and anyway is 7%, is not that big. It's big but not that big. And then Zelius Scepter is short duration might, 4 seconds, and might should be given by our party, not from ourselves. So here I prefer Wrathful Spirit. Of course you can try these other two, but I would recommend Wrathful. Then here additional power, not the best trait, but the trait trait in this of these three. Then here we get the symbols. This is a minor trait, but it's huge, as you see. Symbols, they are 30% more damage, which is huge. We run the skill 2 here is a symbol, and the skill 3 from staff is another symbol. Then here 10 more percent damage whenever the symbols hit a foe, like 2% for 5 stacks, but it means just a symbol needs to hit 5 enemies once, and we get 15 seconds of 10% more damage. Actually kinda retarded duration. Instead of Radiance we can run Virtues. There is a variant of Virtues which uses these ones. The Unscathed Contender for 20% more damage when we have Aegis. Actually a really huge trait, but doesn't really work a lot in melee because we will never have Aegis basically, but from range, if we position properly, we can benefit from this really a lot. Then here 10% more damage whenever we use a virtue. You see we get this buff here after we use the virtues, F1, F2. The damage boost refreshes and does not stack. If you use all the 3 virtues at once, you won't get 18 seconds. It will just refresh the duration. Then here we take this, which is for Condi builds, but the other 2 traits are defensive or supportive ones. So this is more damage. Even if we have 0 condition damage, it is more damage. And you will notice it because the triggers, the attacks to trigger the F1 comes from 5 to 3, and the burning active is applied in an area. So it's nice also to cover some conditions. On the Dragonhunter trait line, I run this trait, Piercing Light, to reduce the cooldown of the traps, since we run 2 traps and are the main damage skills on the melee situation. Then Zealot Aggressions, because the other 2 traits are defensive. This is not really reliable, but it's still 10% more damage on crippled enemies, and we cripple them with Test of Faith, or our allies can cripple them with corruptions and stuff. Then here we take Heavy Light to do more damage to disabled foes, which is a huge trait because 15% more damage is a lot. on the stunned enemies, on feared enemies, and so on. Then here I recommend going Radiance, by the way. In the gameplay I will link in the description. I run the Radiance build variant. Now let's get into the gears. We have helm, chest, and legs, berserker, and then we have shoulder, gloves, and feet on Valkyrie. Rune of Scholar. Here we take Marauder Staff, Marauder Scepter, and Marauder Focus. On the staff I keep Bloodlust and Force, then here Frenzy and Force. 3 trinkets are Berserker and 3 trinkets are Marauder. The backpack is Berserker, a ring is Berserker, and an accessory is Berserker, while the other ring, the other accessory are Berserker, are Marauder, sorry, and the amulet is Marauder too. On the utility skills I run, let me run from this roamer here. On the utility skills here we run the 2 traps, Procession of Blade, which is a big damage skill during a little period of time, as you see. They are 10 hits on the enemies, and this huge damage, and also gives us Fury, slow enemies because of the trait. The cooldown is quite low. You should always use the traps when the enemy runs on you, because you are sure they are gonna hit the traps. They are really good for kiting the enemies, if you watched my other video about the kiting. Then here we have the Test of Fate, which is a trap. It's instant, it has no cast time, and I don't know why this guy will not follow, but okay. This Procession of Blade has a cast time, as you see, while the Test of Fate can be used while stunned, while dodging, while using other skills, so beware of this. And the big damage is done when the enemies cross the ring formed by the Test of Fate traps. Then here we run the Sword of Justice, which we know is a big damage. It's a bit slow, so always consider to use it before the enemy moves on where you cast it. Like, the enemy is there, I pull them to me here, they come, I cast it a little in front of them, because if I would cast directly on them, they would move to us and they would dodge it basically. Let's see the trap. You see this ring, when they cross this ring they get big damage. The cast does a little damage too, like really small damage, but the big damage is done when they cross the trap. As a healing skill I would recommend going Litany of Wrath, because it really makes us almost unkillable. If we have symbols on the ground, traps on the ground doing damage for us, all this damage will be converted in our healing for ourselves. So it means that even if we are stunned, corrupt, feared or whatever, or we are out of position, if our symbols and the traps or swords will hit the enemies, we will take free healings basically. You could also run Shelter to have 2 seconds blocks, but I don't really like it, because against a blob there is a lot of unblockable stuff, and it can disrupt the heal or still do damage while we think we are safe, but we are not safe. As a utility elite here, Renewed Focus to refresh every virtues from us, and also of course for the 3 seconds invulnerability. The usage here is pretty simple. Every skill you do deals a lot of damage. The main damage skill on arc DPS is often the skill 2 from the scepter or the traps basically. These 3 are always top. Even though the big burst damage should be done by the skill 2 from staff, which has a small delay in the damage, like it first heals and then it does some damage. And the skill 3 from staff also, as soon as we cast it, it will start doing damage. You see, the first pulls occurs when we summon the symbol. Instead, the skill 2 from the scepter is a symbol, but you see the damage doesn't trigger as soon as we cast it. So beware of this. I will show you again because this didn't show well. Okay, no. Now why is it doing damage? You see, it doesn't trigger as soon as you cast it. So beware of this. If you need the burst damage and to do burst combo, always do skill 2 plus skill 3. Skill 2, you have this small delay, then skill 3, and you see big damage in a really short time. Skill 4 on the staff is empower, of course, for extra might, if the commander asks for it. Then Light of Warding is a big CC, you use when the enemy runs on you to remove a stack of stability. On Scepter we have the auto attack is a projectile, same goes for the staff, so we almost never use this. But the staff one is AoE, auto attack, and so big range, so not really bad. But the Scepter one is, I don't know, is kinda bugged, it can be sidewalked by enemy. It has 900 range instead of 1200 as the staff. And it is a projectile and single target. You should never use this basically, unless you have nothing left. The skill 3 is an immobilize, single target. It's not a projectile, so it can be used to pick up an enemy. If you see it is out of position or you have nothing left to use, you use this and immobilize them for 2 seconds. The skill 4 is a single target big damage, but during a long period of time. If you miss the first hit, the other hits will not occur, so be sure to hit the first hit. The skill 5 is 3 blocks, and if these 3 blocks are not consumed, you do a huge damage around you, but it's really impossible to not consume them during a fight against like 50 people, 40, 30, 20 also. Like, the damage will never occur basically, but it is a combo finisher blast on the cast when you cast it, so you can use it to blast stealth, might, water or whatever. The F1 should never be used unless you need to pull the enemy or to CC some enemy, you want to pick off someone, like otherwise it's better to keep it for the passive effect, which basically is a bit of more damage for us. The F2 is a big mobility skill. You can use it to reposition yourself when you are far from the commander or to run away. Also gives a big healing in the area, even if we have 0 healing power. Removes immobilize from you and 2 more conditions from you. And of course is refreshed by the renewed focus. Then here we have the F3, which creates a cone in front of you, which blocks for us and gives ages to us and and allies. And then also the cone you saw in front of me, I will show you again. It blocks every attack incoming to us and to our allies behind us, so you can stay in front and tank everything because you block it. Beware of the unblockable attacks, of course. Also, it's not your role to support and defend your allies. You should always do damage, but if it happens, you can do this. And so I guess this is everything for this build. Kinda short video, but this build has not really much to explain because it's really straightforward. Try to do damage with every skill you have, position yourself really well. You are quite squishy, so always use a litany of rats when you enter the enemy, or maybe renewed focus or F3 or skill 5 from the focus. Always try to stay alive and the damage will come. Thank you for watching.